Check one, check two. Okay. We're rolling. So, I want to welcome everybody. About to get started real quick. Uh, check my sound. I was finishing my sound the other day. So I think we're just gonna kind of jump in, and we're gonna talk at the high level of what is CJIS, right? I'm sure people are gonna fall in, but what is CJIS at the end of the day, and why is it important, and what makes it, I guess, special? Mm. So what makes it special? Mm. Happy Tuesday. I'm trying to get motivated to get started. Um, there's so many hacks, so many ransomwares, so many things to learn. Just putting it all together. So we about to really get started here shortly. If anybody has, you know how I roll. What's up, boys? Glad to see you. If you got any questions about any of the cybersecurity issues, privacy issues, just throw them in the chat. We handled them last week. Go through this quick slideshow. I've been doing a little more compliance lately. That's just a part of cybersecurity in the different agencies, especially at the federal level. I love that that federal money. So I'm always talking about federal compliances, federal statutes, federal um, putting together systems. Of course, I always touch AWS. So um, AWS, of course, has CJIS compliant servers. What's up, Una Stems? So what does that mean, right? So you see my little thumbnail. I've been trying to work on my thumbnail, work on my thumbnail game. Cybersecurity compliance, all right? So when you talk compliance, we're usually reporting to somebody. IRS, FISMA for DOD. I always talk about that. HHS for HIPAA, FERPA's education. So there's a ton of compliance when you're talking about securing data that belongs to people, right? The federal government wants to put a wrapper around it to make sure we're doing it right. So you see the thumbnail, cybersecurity compliance, criminal information, criminal justice information services. So this is for the FBI. This is for state police. This is for sheriffs. This is the baseline you have to do to get data from the FBI, right? So when, like in one of my current assignments, I have to get an FBI fingerprint, right? That's super that's super detailed, right? So if they're gonna take my fingerprint, they gotta handle my data in a certain way, right, to get my data. So that's kind of what we're gonna run through. My personal opinion, CJIS is, which is crazy, is one of the lowest federal compliance from cybersecurity and computer security from that technology. So criminal CJIS, criminal justice information systems for federal compliance. What's up, Tobias? What's up, Helmet? Peace out. We'll catch the replay. That's cool. I appreciate that, Helmet. Once again, if you got any cybersecurity questions while on the subject, or if you got something different, just go ahead and throw them in there. So I'm not gonna keep you too long. Cybersecurity, CJIS. The purpose of CJIS security policy is criminal justice agency, non-criminal agencies with a minimum set of security requirements for access to the Federal Bureau of Investigations with the FBI and information services, CJIS division systems, and information to protect and safeguard. Right. So this is the minimum standard for security requirements to ensure continuity of information protection. So once again, it's the low bar. Any agencies that request information from the FBI has to lock down their computer system this way. All right, I do a little freelancing, so I help people become CJIS compliant. I help people with the paperwork, so that's one other thing. Um, So relationship to other policies, I put that in red. You can see that right there. CJIS security policies may be used as the sole security policy for an agency. The local agency may complement the CJIS security policies with the local policies, or the agency may develop their own standalone security policies. However, CJIS security policies should always be the minimum standard in the local policy for argument. Right, so you can do better security, more thing, but this is the baseline, right? So we're just gonna kind of roll through here to figure out what the FBI and the sheriff's them are doing to lock down their systems. All right. Once again, the CJIS security policy represent uh, shared responsibility between FBI, CJIS, CJIS system agency, and state identification bureaus, right? So those are the agencies that are required to reach out to the FBI to once again to get data and what their minimum security requirements are. Right? Once again, like federal compliance, federal security. Let's talk about that higher level security as a program, right? How did you get into freelance work and build your customer base? That's a good question, Tobias. Since I'm old and I've been in the game for 35 years, when I started doing it, I probably was 35. I had 10 years of security businesses with large industries. So I just put when I when I was trying to get businesses, I do big systems, I do federal systems, because there's a lot of small companies now trying to bid for federal work or even state work, and they have to meet these requirements, and they don't know how to do it. So the other thing is how I build my customer base is Upwork. I just go out there. It took me a while to master Upworks because you bidding against with people around the world. So I do Oracle and Java programming. I was putting that out there first. Man, people in Africa and India, they were bidding $10 an hour for Oracle work that I usually charge $50 an hour. So, but the security work is a little more complex. A lot of security work has to be done in the continental U.S. So that is a higher bill rate. So I use Fiverr and I use Upwork. So I'm giving you a little game to buy. So I'm giving you my secrets, man. So I go out there and I might do a. Let me know if you want me to do a stream about it. I just bid on work. Then it took me a while to kind of massage my statement of work to get work from them. Then once I did that, it's kind of like, okay, I'm at this level. This is what I've done. I worked with, once again, DOD, IRS, FISMA, HIPAA. So I've done projects. I got templates for policies and procedures that's been validated by Booz Allen. So I've got a number of paperwork to get my customer base up to bias, but it was hard. Right? I'm not gonna take a lie because once I got on Upwork, just trying to figure out how to bid, it took me like 3 months to actually win a bid right on that. So I was out there grinding, like I said, and it's weird once you kind of get in the groove. I do most of my stuff on Upworks. You start bidding against the same 4 or 5 people, right? So I kind of know their specialty, they kind of know my specialty. And what I do is I was reaching out to a couple of those dudes because they were doing a lot more penetration tests. I said, well, let's do a whole program. You could do the penetration test, and I could do like we talking like we're gonna go through today, policies and procedure, all the paperwork, the system security plan for federal systems, about 800 pages. So I could do all that, and you could do the red team exercise, right? So I was reaching out to people to buy. So what's the best path for me to get the federal government money as a network engineer? Go work for somebody. Once you get your proper certifications, especially if you've been in the military on a STEM, just go work for like I'm opposite. If you're working for what's the best path for me? Go work for a smaller consulting companies. There's a ton of them out there that get smaller work. They'll let you do bigger stuff on that work. Once you get that skill set and you get your certificates, I don't know if you're trying to be Cisco, Juniper, or what certification. Once you get those certifications, you can go work for somebody like Accenture, Booz Allen. And once you get in those places with that experience, once you work for one of the big agencies, you can get work from anybody because that kind of stamps you as you good. Like I work with Booz Allen, but I never worked for Booz Allen. But I put those guys on my resume because I worked with them and gave them documentation. So really, I know their methodology inside and out. So that's how I did it on the stem. That's Ryan Stream on that beat. That's cool. Oh, okay. I'll talk about Sourworks. If you start a Patreon, I'm joining. I'm thinking about it. I actually probably just really give you the Patreon for free, Tobias. To be honest, I'm thinking about doing GRC, which is more paperwork, and cybersecurity. I'm kind of working with Tech G, Keep It Techie, Sub Zero, which I haven't reached out to him yet. But a lot of those guys have things built up for training that they already been doing. So when I came in here as an OG, I wanted to make sure I worked with everybody, and I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. So Tobias, I'll probably put me a little chat up there soon. Just throw a little $2 in the chat fee. You got me thinking about it, Max. You got me thinking about it. Like you said, Max, I think you the one brought up we need to do a bigger Discord and put everybody in it. No, true. I probably true. Like I said, I'm OG, man. I'm 50. I came to give my game for a little free, Maddox. I came to give my experience for free. I ain't got much longer on this earth. Once again, I'm send a shout out. I know he's gonna overcome it to MTR. I know he's battling his thing, so that kind of put a little bow around my life, Maddox. I'm thinking a little differently. But let's look at the roles of CJIS. The reason why I'm going over compliance is that's a part of the game. When you're in security, even if you're doing networking, there's certain things you can do to make the network CJIS compliant. So if they're trying to get that FBI money or state agency money or state police money, you know how to lock down your network to be CJIS compliant. Two, if you're in the cloud, and we're going to talk about that in there. AWS already has VMs that are CJIS approved. That's the cloud I'm learning. That's where I'm pushing out my chips in. So these are some of the governance policies, advisory boards, working groups, right? Operations. These are the agencies that have the CJIS data, that has your fingerprints, that has if you've been locked up, which is a whole nother story, or had if you got parking tickets, right? Those agencies have what they call CJIS data, and to get that data from those agencies, you have to have your systems working accordingly, right? And over that's your policies, laws, and directive, security implementations, technology, and all that. And part of that too is each state might handle those a little differently too, of how they want to pass around data and do data, right? So, but yeah, Tobias, if you needed some any more questions on freelancing, just throw those in there. Like I said, I probably do a stream on there. Like I said, I'm kind of getting my energy back. My mom passed away a couple years ago, so I kind of shut down all of that. And two is part of the Patreon to buy some helping. I think I'm gonna win some on Upworks, and I'm gonna take a couple of. Well, I'm actually gonna take one intern, and we're gonna work on this together and see if we can get her experience, see if we can get her a job in GRC and do policies and procedure. And if that works, I might roll that out into a super cheap Patreon program where if I win something, well, I know I'm gonna win stuff. When I win stuff on Upwork, I'll take interns. We do it together, and I'm gonna split the money for the Patreon. I mean, from the Upwork with whatever intern is working for me. I'm just gonna throw this out here, be transparent. Usually, when I bid on work on Upwork, depending on the work and the volume of work, I usually charge anywhere from $50 an hour to $75 an hour. So shout out to my man Black Heights. He was talking about unpaid intern. I'm kind of chunky. I gotta eat, so we gonna make some money when you come intern with me. But let's get real. So the CJIS Criminal Justice Information is a team used to refer to all the FBI CJIS provided data, like we talked about. We're giving data out for the FBI, so we gotta make sure it's locked down. Civil agencies to perform their mission, including but not limited to biometric, identity history, biographic, property, case, incident, and history data. That's if you lock you up, right? The following as categories: a CJIS described in the architecture. So once again, biometric, identity history, biographic, property, and case incident history. The real key, I think, a lot of people is missing is identity. So when they take a drone, take your picture and match it to your Facebook, right, to build a case against you, that's your identity history. All right. So I don't think people really understand a high level. When people talk about identity with the FBI, they're doing your stuff. And their favorite thing is we don't have your identity in the FBI to search your pictures. That is true, but incorrect. They don't have it in the FBI database. Each stuff now, you got to get that real driver's license. We call it real ID where I'm at. The FBI has access to all the state databases that have your picture in it. So if they need to find you, they can go through all the state driver's license database. Then too, I did a bunch of streams. They will give a warrant over to Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and whoever. And we always see a dumb criminal. Now they want to show the money on Facebook. I'm like, right, so they can track you with their identity. So I want to be crystal clear what that meant, right? So this is breaking it down. I'm just gonna hit the high points. So these are the things we just talked about. Biometric data. So I got the individual definitions. Like, so if you do the replay and you want to pull them out, biometric identity is data derived from one or more intrinsic physical identity history data, textual data that corresponds with the individual biometric data. Right. Biometric data, information about individuals associated with the unique case, not necessarily connected to identity data. Right. Property data, information about your vehicles, property associated with you, crime, and accompanied by. Case incident history is information about the history of your criminal incidents. But you start combining those data elements, you can get they call it a digital dossier of your life. Right. Because when you start checking in with Facebook and Instagram to show your food, right? Or you check in when you go over your house. Now I know all the places you've been, right? And a lot of people don't realize when Facebook has your phone, they take your phone triangulation to figure out what location you are at, right? So they actually reach out to whoever your provider is and take the triangulation data and put it with the Facebook data, right? So now they have a digital dossier of where you stop, where you at, where you get your gas at, right? So people don't know the details. The federal government can track you now with Facebook, right? Because I'm old, so I don't do as much of that. Young people check in, check out, where I'm at. They taking pictures. If you don't cut the pictures off, your pictures have your longitude and latitude in the metadata of your picture, right? So that's another thing from a dossier standpoint of where they're checking you out. So these are standard policies. A lot of these are NIST policies and government policies. So once again, we're just gonna hit it super quick. Policy, you need information exchange agreement. The reason why, like we talked about, is you referencing data from the FBI you want back. So we got to figure out how we're going to exchange it, especially if we're doing it electronically with an MOU. Right. So what format you giving in? Is it a web service call? Is it a JSON file? Is it a flat file? There's so many ways. So that exchange agreement between your two agencies, and two is how often are you going to do it? And, what's the frequency? And what time can I expect it? Then the second one is security awareness training. Everybody's doing the basic stuff. Incident response. They really expect to get hacked. So if I get hacked or you get hacked, I got to let you know within 24 or 48 hours. Auditing and accountability. All right. So when you log in, we got to audit it, figure out where you're going in the system. Access control. You can only see what you need to see. Identification and authentication. All right. Once again, your username and password, I authenticate it. All right. Then once I get authenticated, access control. What can I see and where can I go? Right, and what agency data can I get? Maddox, we need a black YouTube page. True, no one wants to charge you. Oh, that's cool. Thanks, Tobias. People unintentionally create a pattern. That is true, Jabron. The sad part is, I think the kids know they're doing it intentionally. I don't think they care, man. They sending out new pictures. Younger generation is crazy. I don't think they care. They don't care until they get locked up. So I don't think they're doing it unintentionally. I think there's so much information out there, Jabron. I, I'm putting it on them. I think they know. I just don't think they care. Stenography. That's true. I did that actually a couple weeks ago. I do a introduction to computer security. We actually talk about stenography, hiding stuff in images, hiding credit cards and images, just different ways and stuff. I'd rather just encrypt the data, but boys would just send it. So even though I'm doing criminal stuff, if I send it encrypted, it's gonna look like the encryption stuff that federal government. So it'd be actually harder for them to pick up if I encrypt it. Right. So but yeah, so you got me thinking about like I said, Tobias, Magus got me thinking about a Patreon. Like I said, I'm doing some side work. I think I'm gonna win, and I'm gonna take one intern and kind of run it through this class to figure out is that gonna get them the skills they need? Because a lot of people, we talked about it on my man Black Heights. You need internships. You need experience, right? Even for entry level jobs, which is crazy. For entry level job, you need 3 years. Like well, I'm like that's not entry level. If I need 3 years of experience to get a job, is that entry level? So that's the thing. So how can we give people real world experience, right? So they can go to the next level. Right. I see you, Tobias. So yeah, so I think Tobias thinks it's like I said, a good idea. So that's one thing I'm trying to bring to YouTube, right? Okay, I'm gonna train you with the beginning levels of cybersecurity, right? Then I'm gonna send you to Tech G. He's got the intro to ITF, the A plus to Security Plus. Keep it techy. Keep it techy. He's about to do a Linux class. My man Sub Zero's got the Oracle class, so I'm gonna partner with these people. Then I think I'm gonna take the GRC part. What is GRC? Like we're going through now, policies and procedures, and we're gonna talk about helping the architect design a system, right? Because a lot of people is into my man's into like you said in the network Unistem. So when he died, designs the VLANs and the subnets, right? Only certain VLANs and subnets can talk to people, right? When I have a guest VLAN for my guests, they shouldn't be able to get to my production system, right? All of that's is GRC, right? My man Unistem is going to be the SME, but as a security analyst, I got to validate what he puts up, right? We got to agree that it's secure, right? It's a partnership. Right. So that's some of the things I hope to bring to this space. Once again, I worked for DoD for 11 years, and I worked with the IRS, FISMA, and FERPA. That's what I do currently for a big state client. Right. So I've been in that federal space for 20 years, making that federal bag. So now I'm trying to get to the cloud bag. So I'm studying my AWS, studying to be a associate architect in one of the tracks on there was core security. So that's the track I'm gonna have to eat up and spit out and make sure I understand it back and forth. But here's the rest of the policies: configuration management, media protection, physical protection, system communication protection, formal audits, personal security, and mobile devices. I mean, mobile devices are so common now. They gave it its own policy area, right? Because you expect people to say, "Can I get to your corporate email on my phone?" Right? So is that a corporate phone or is that a personal phone? Right? So how do we lock those down? How do we put a container? How do we do MDM software on it to make sure you can only get to what you need to get to? Then two, if your phone gets stolen and you got corporate email, we need to be able to remotely wipe that phone too, right? So it's kind of unique that they gave mobile, which I expected its own policy. Once again, I'm just gonna hit the high level. Criminal Justice Agency user agreement. Receiving access to CJIS shall enter into a signed written agreement with the appropriate signature authority of the CSA providing the access. So these are some of the things we're going to put in our standard agreement. Because right, we're talking about CJIS, we're talking about FBI. So we're getting information from the FBI. If you work in a federal space or a big government space, first thing we get is FBI fingerprinted background, right? So we're going to send those fingerprints to the FBI. They're going to come back with a whole bunch of data about you, right? And there's different levels. Like a friend of mine has a top security clearance. They were interviewing his next door neighbors, right? The FBI was actually sending people out to his neighbors to do that, right? So they were actually connect because he's got the polygraph because he was actually going to the Pentagon doing work. I'm having him on my channel, but he's at that level, right? So some things in the agreement we're going to talk audit, dissemination of data, hit confirmation. We got to log everything. Quality assurance. Number 6, what we just talked about. Screening, pre-employment. Security, timeless. We got to train everybody. So, how they're using it, the use of the system and the validation of when we set up this exchange of data that it actually works, right? So we want to make sure we getting stuff and it actually works, right? Um, And I did. I'm just cutting out big parts that are already on there. Let's see. Tobias, I do it for free. I'm not entry level though. I don't want to take some experience. But that's cool. Tobias, what level you at? Like I said, I as I build up, I'm probably gonna do different levels. Because even if you're at the mid level, you're trying to get to a higher level. Especially, I think you're in networking because there's Cisco certifications at the architect level. And even though at the architect level, we got to take security, and I review those setups for networking a lot. So I got the Kaspersky's for sale, mobile device, man. Facts, man. Check out Boils. You good? I'm all good for the shameless plug. Uh, check out my man. He's got the Kaspersky's for sale. The MDMs. I'm a big fan. I haven't double checked the Kaspersky yet, but I see a lot of your posts. So maybe we can do a joint together. I could do a security review of the Kaspersky's. I know their stuff is good, and we can actually do a collaboration soon, boys. Just think about it. I'm always doing stuff. So incident response. I'm just gonna read the top. Security risk of both accidental and malicious attack against government and private agencies remains persistent in both physical and logical environments. So we don't hope we get attacked, but if we do get attacked, and we do, my boss favorite word, the data gets exfiltrated. I love that word, exfiltrated. I mean, they stole all the data, right? What time frame do you have to report to us? What time frame do I have to report to CJIS? Um, how are we going to communicate? If your data is in AWS, right, we got to communicate between the two agency and AWS because it's up in their Gov data center, right? So we need to practice that. If that happens in real life, it's called instant response. How are we going to communicate? How long do you have to tell me before you get hacked, right? I worked with IRS and DOD. We don't know. We don't wait to see if we've been hacked. If you see something funny, you need to let me know within an hour, right? Something looks funny. We see some IPs or don't look right. Then I'm gonna go on my system and start figuring out. Okay, this is somebody in our system, right? Because we're communicating. So if you get hacked, they can jump over to our system. So we don't want to. We don't want you to wait to know if you've been hacked. If you see something funny, let us know that we're gonna start looking, right? Then if we look and we think it's real funny, we're gonna sever that connection between us, right? Until we figure that out. Those systems that connect to your system, I might shut those off from the rest of our network, right? I deal with big clients, so they can have 10 vendors they're working with, different sections, right? So a lot of times computers only handle certain applications. So whatever applications we were doing jointly, I might shut those down until we can figure out what happens because I'm trying to make sure the rest of my network doesn't get affected, right? So that's the incident response. Uh, that was part of that. Reporting security events. Agency shall prompt report. So yeah, that's kind of what was going on. Incident response. Now, how do we report it between that? Here's a couple use cases. Once again, on your replay, you can dig in. So I'm just going to hit this. That's one thing I did like about CJIS. They had use cases. If you were using some of their data, what that would look like on their site, right? During the course of an investigation, this is case one, a detective attempted to access a criminal justice information from a hotel room using an agency-issued mobile broadband card. To gain access, the detective first established remote session via secure virtual private tunnel (VPN) which is the raise. Anytime you're in a hotel, you gotta go through the VPN. The tunnel satisfying the requirement for encryption. On Upon connecting to the agency network, the detective is challenged for a username, of course, identification, password, something you know, and a one-time passcode, something you have from a hardware token, to satisfy the requirement for advanced authentication. Once the detective credentials are validated, his identity is asserted by the infrastructure to all authorized applications needed to complete his query. Right to the thing in there that I was pleasantly surprised. Right, he did username identification, password something you know, and the one-time passcode is something you have from a hardware token. So Google sells them. They are definitely running AWS, and that token I actually keep rolling. Right, then when you log in, it'll give you I think a 10-digit number. You put it in, right? So that's actually three. Um, that's two. That's two factor, but I do like the one-time passcode, right? So I'm not gonna read them all. I'm gonna skip two, but like I said, once on there. So we're gonna read three out of band one-time password. Using an agency issued laptop, a user can connect to the agency network via the agency issued mobile card and encrypted VPN tunnel. As part of the ongoing investigation, the user initiates an application that will permit access to CG, criminal justice information. The user is prompted for identification, password, something new. And once that has been completed, a text message containing one-time password is sent message out of band to the agency issued cell phone. Right. So people get that a lot. You do it and you get the phone. The cool thing I liked about that is, and we debate about this, and since I work on it, the user has an agency issued cell phone. It's not his personal phone, right? So he's got two phones. So that means that phone is only used for agency reading the email, agency and a business, right? So his kid's not putting any games on there. His significant other is just used for business, right? So that's a lot of times when you see that in the federal work that says agency owned equipment, right? We know that's a cost, we know that's spectrum, but two is the classification of data. We talking about FBI data, right? So that's going to be at a high level of classification. So I like that part of that. So then I'm gonna read the last one. I'm gonna read five. User has moved office location required email containing CJIS information via Outlook Web Access (OWA). Client utilizes a risk-based authentication solution. The user launches OWA and is prompted to enter the username and password. The RBA detects the computer has not previously been used by this user, so it's not listed on the user profile. So that's cool. So the risk based authentication setting you've seen that is you log in your bank, it goes, this is a new computer. Is this you? Right. Who is this? Right? Text the MAC address. I think it also puts a token, but the RBA detects that the computer has not been previously used. It's not listed and presents a high risk challenge response question which the user is prompted to answer. Once the question has been verified as correct, the user authenticated and granted access to the email. So a lot of times, when you first log in, set up on ID, you get three or four passwords, right, that you answer so it can give it back to you. Meanwhile, the RPA logs and collects a number of device forensic information and captures the user pattern analysis to update the user profile. The CJIS security policies requirements for RBA, right, uh, risk-based authentication has been satisfied. So those are a few things I do like about CJIS, right? They do talk about risk-based. There was some more. So this is in the back of the CJIS, and you could Google it. It's CJIS. It's out there. I think it was 245 pages. So that's the architectural design. That's for my man Tobias. He would be setting up the intranet routers, the extranet routers, the VLANs. Make sure we got FIPS 140-2 encryption in the client. What else he got in there? So it looks like a couple subnets in there TLS web server. Cool thing is the one laptop, squad car laptop with the advanced authentication. So what does that mean when he's out, in the car, logging in? So those are some of the things. Because I'm gonna do a cloud class probably next year, which is only 3 months away, right? And we're gonna dig into from AWS perspective and security. What does it mean to lock down your intranet router? What does that mean to lock down your extranet router? What does that mean to lock down your Ethernet switch? Right? What does that mean to have a web server VLAN, application server VLAN, and a database server VLAN, and a flatnet server VLAN, right? So all of those is make from a CJIS perspective and really from a federal compliance perspective because majority of them kind of has the same setup, right? So that's the CJIS setup. Then, of course, I had to go to my favorite cloud vendor, and look up CJIS when I went to AWS, right? Using AWS for criminal justice information solution, right? So AWS, Azure, and Google, they want the federal money, right? So they're gonna make it easy for you to set up from two ways. If you're a government agency and you want to do business right easier, you set up. But if you have a company like Boyles, want to do government work and state work, right? So some of the agencies he's trying to sell to might have a CJIS requirement, right? So he needs to understand a CJIS requirement for the stuff he's trying to sell, right? So he can make it easier to sell. Because now everybody's asking about security, right? Hell, somebody's getting hacked every week, right? It's like, oh, they got hacked, somebody else got hacked, right? So you need to understand compliance because when you sell to federal agencies, state agents, or even you as a vendor, might be connecting the data with trying to get FBI or, like I said, FERPA for education. There's so many requirements out there. You kind of need to. People are asking for those requirements when you're trying to sell services or buy products, then you as a security personnel or security SME in your area, that area could be networking, VMs, Linux, Windows, Active Directory. There's still a higher level security like that you got to configure it to meet CJIS, right? AWS makes it easier because remember it's the shared responsibility. So they're gonna make sure the network's set up. They're gonna make sure the VMs are set up. The VPC, they give you the components, but you got to configure them correctly to make sure you qualify for CJIS. Right? And right here is actually the network diagram that AWS put on their website. So if you're trying to configure out something, they give you a base setup, right? To say, we believe if you configure our system like this, you'll meet CJIS requirement. Right? Facts on those apples, man. You gotta get those apples set up right. So we can just kind of roll through this. And I think this is new. This is from September 15, 2021. Right. My man Tobias is on there. He's got to set up the VPC is the internal networking, right, of AWS. Right. And two is he's got to set the other part up. To the right is the customer network with the network gateway that's gonna send data from AWS to the customer site or your site, right? So he's got to set up the firewall. He's got to set up the network gateway, right? How that's going to communicate. What is that? A tunnel? Is that a tunnel? Is that HMAC? Is that a web service call? Right, going to the network. There's a ton of ways to set that traffic up, but he will be responsible for making sure like the network gateway coming up into the AWS setup. So we're actually just going to run through this super quick. So if you look at the top, the interesting part of this is it says AWS Government Cloud West. Government Cloud is a separate data center that only government people can go into, right? And if you're a vendor trying to get into it, a government agency has to invite you into the government cloud before you get in there. All right. So if Boyles is selling some for Kaspersky or some other product, and he's got installation of certain service he wants to do or a database he wants to run some information to for some security stuff, he's got to get invited to a government agency for him to actually get in AWS Government Cloud West. All right. And if we look right to it, it has a management virtual private cloud, meaning my man Tobias, he's going to need to work on his Cisco routers. So he would have probably a couple virtual desktops in there to run right. Because my management thing is you working on the Windows stuff, you working on the cloud stuff, you working on the Active Directory, right? So I'm gonna give you a management stuff for you to be able to work. I don't want you connecting directly from your desk into my cloud, right? So I'm gonna give you a sandbox to work in before you start working in it. What's up, blind guy, his wife? I was over there with you for a minute with my young man. I had to tell him to get out his feelings for a minute. He's a good what is Before the Billions. I like that. Go subscribe to my man Before the Billions. He's getting it. He was talking about um recruitment companies and how they move and how once your contract fire, the recruitment company's gonna fire you. I just told him they're a body shop. They don't care about you. They're a resource, and that's what he said. He said somebody called him a resource and upset him. I was like, dude, IT, you a resource, right? If you're a recruitment company, you're a resource. Once that company doesn't need you anymore, a lot of times that recruitment company's not gonna keep you on their bench. If they can't put you in another project in the next week, you're gonna be fired, right? So he's a cool guy though. But I just told him it's nothing personal. You know what's gonna happen. You move accordingly. Because I think that happened to him. That kind of threw him off. And he's gonna do big things. But I just told him, don't take it personal. Move accordingly. I do have a LinkedIn, Tobias. I'll put it in the chat. So yeah, let me get back. So once again, if you look the management virtual, right below that is the S3, which is the simple bucket, right, of encryption. Right next to that is to the AWS Console. Usually there's a one root person, right? That's the person that controls the whole thing. You should never use that to do regular work. You should just use it to sign up and just kind of take that user and put it away, because if that user gets hacked, they can get to anything on your bot. So you create other users like we talked about to do specialized jobs, right? So if you log on that, it's usually emergency and you have to do something. All right, what's up, Red Pill Awareness? So yeah, I just want to, because I've seen 60 grown men walk out of a project because it ended prematurely because there was no government funding, and dudes was crying because their company was gonna fire them. It was their company walked them out on Friday. 40 of those dudes was gonna be fired by next Friday, and they knew it, right? So I don't get mad when I understand what's gonna happen to me, right? Like I'm at a current project, true story. It ends in June. My boss comes to me and said, "Okay, they don't want to renew your contract coming up in June, but we will offer you a job." He was sad because he was like, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "Why are you sad?" True story. 2 weeks ago, I told the young guys I work with, I was like, "Dude, this project's winding down. My bill rate is high. They're letting people go. They're not gonna renew my contract, man, right? Because I've done this 10 times. So you kind of understand, right? You want to jump off the boat before the boat sinks, right? So that's just part of business, right? So as you grow in there, and that's why I was trying to tell my man Before the Billions, it's just a business, man. Don't take it personal. Move accordingly, right? Because as you work an assignment, if they don't want to bring you on as a full-time equivalent, just get those skills and know you need to leave in about a year, right? Because usually they're gonna look at you for a year, figure out if they want to hire you, right? Or figure out they're no longer gonna need that service, right? I just been lucky because I was on a contract at DoD for 11 years, and I'm at a huge state agency, and I've been on that contract for 10 years, right? So I've been at two big contracts, right? And very few people get that luxury, right? So Let's look at the bottom. Green Simple S3. Once again, that's the AWS put this out on their CJIS. They believe this will pass the CJIS contract. If you look to the simple buckets, got FIPS 197. That's encrypted data at rest for your S3, right? What that means is whatever product you use or Amazon, they took the X3 encryption and sent it to the government. The government looked at it and said, okay, you doing it right, right? Because you get a lot of people on open source, which I love. They say they doing AES 256. How do you know they did it right if nobody validates it? Right? So the government says you dealing with FBI data, you dealing with sensitive data. We got to validate your encryption and make sure you're doing it right. A lot of people they say they validate it so they can come and steal your data from the government, right? They know how to break your encryptions, right? So it's two ways of that. So let's look at the middle box. What's up, Gray? On to the next one. Facts. So two is I'm getting to the age two, and I think Gabe talking about it. I'm trying to figure out, okay, do I want to go somewhere and be an FTE? Do I want to go work on to one of the big companies like Gabe put it out there? He's at Accenture. I know some people at Booz Allen. I know some people at DoD. So I'm just kind of weighing my options, right, to figure out. And a lot of people get new budgets in January, so I'm gonna start really making my move in January to figure out what I want to do. Where I teach, they actually want me to teach full time, but I'm like, dude, that'd be a 50% pay cut. So, long story short, I want to teach when I'm about 65. I want to be the old dude coming in with the slides out of date, so I can get that good health insurance, so I can just slide on in there. But let's look at the middle real quick. Production virtual cloud, the VPC. It's from the Cisco guys, it's how you control your VLANs, how you create VLANs, how do you do your CIDR to do your subnets, right, and control that, right? So you got the application load balancing, talking SSL pass through to the private subnet of the ES2 application and event instances. Those I consider those web server and app servers. Like you said, it's this application server with the web server. Then it has the event server next to it, and those talk to the database layer. They got SQL 1 and 2 database. Then they got a NoSQL database. Then also they have a Redis, which is a memory database. Once again, right next to it, they're telling you I got the FIPS 197. So when I save data into that database, when it writes it to the disk in that database, in that SQL database, the data files are going to be encrypted at rest, and it's going to be government approved, right? So that's it. Then, like we talked about, Tobias was actually talking about on-prem as we move data from AWS back to on-prem, because a lot of people are using Azure for Office 365 right now. They're using AWS for Active Directory calculation. So that data has to move freely between your cloud instance and how you're locking it down and on-prem, right? So people are taking that AD on-prem and syncing it up to Azure or AWS, right? So you can have one-time sign-on and make sure all that stuff is working and correct. So that's all I have. Let me know if you have any questions in the about anything. Like I said, shout out to for the billions. I just told him, which was cool. I wasn't disrespecting the young guy. He's super smart. I just told him, don't get in your feelings, man. This is a business. I understand how they move, and you, because I know when I go on site, I can tell pretty quickly how long I think I'm gonna be there. I can tell them quickly if I'm not adding value when my consulting companies put me on site. The customer's gonna tell them to pull me, right? Because the customer is paying a certain amount called a bill rate. My I work for the consultant company, so I'm getting part of that, right? So there's a margin out there that the company I work for wants to make, right? Because it's capitalism, right? But two is like he said, there's a lot of people. Once I really figured that out, right? There's a lot of people who are getting taken over, right? Their bill rate was 150, right, and they were only getting $40 an hour, which is 80,000 a lot, but the company was getting another 80. I met a guy, true story. Shout out to my man in the house, Black Heights. I want to shout out to him. He always shares his platform with me. That's the guy too. Is As I give you advice, I'm always going to send you to him because you always need to give advice for multiple people. He got a good little rate, make sure you good. So I'm always going to send you to him. So yeah, so the 40 billions was he just seemed a little shocked when he figured out that one time that the company was making $100 and they paid him, I think he said $16 an hour, right? But I said that's your fault. You need to understand how that bill rate works and what your skill set is worth in the market, right? I'm gonna have a guy on my channel. He had a business and he showed. I call it behind the curtain because my first thing I was making about. I thought I was killing it. I was making it $60 an hour. I mean 60,000, which is $30 an hour. And this guy, we cool today, goes, dude, you only getting $30 an hour. Your bill rate's 115. They stealing from me. I'm like, it's what? so, so I went to work for him. He actually said, hey, man, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't make this much money. He had a big contract because he was known at DOD. And I was shocked. He said, man, your bill rate's 100. You need to start your own company. I'm not paying your health insurance, but I'm going to give you $75 an hour. You cool with that? I was confused when he first said that number. I'm like, huh? Yeah, I'm cool with that. That's one reason I started teaching. When I started teaching, an adjunct professor, you could actually get health care from the university, right? So that's how I was. I was in there. I should have been on Black Heights. I should have been buying real estate. I was making it rain in Vegas. I ain't gonna lie. I was out of pocket. So, but now I'm a little older and a little wiser, so I'm trying to give me a couple little doubles like Black Heights. So that's it. That's all I got. What's up, Brian? We definitely gonna hook up. Like I said, my goal, and I think Black Heights, we talked about it kind of a little differently. Is I'm gonna get in GRC. I've actually bidded on some stuff from Upworks. I think I'm gonna win small GRC, which is policies and procedure, and I'm gonna take an intern, do that together because Black Heights has been blown up on this channel. You need internships, all right? So there was a lot of young people looking for internships. So part of cybersecurity is GRC, which is the paperwork for cybersecurity to get you in the game, to get you going, right? Jabron, DOD, military, NIST, FISMA, DOD, the 20 NIST policies, like we talked about, incident response, all that's paperwork you have to give the government to get an ATO, which is an authority to operate on a big system. So when we talk about compliance, got my hand around, we're trying to get authority to operate, right? Because we're reporting to the IRS, we're reporting to FERPA business. They want all this paperwork to say if we give you data, we're good. And if you get hacked, right, and you got to go in front of Congress or you got to go in front of the red team, they're going to ask you, how did you secure this data to the level of CJIS, or I did the IRS last week, or whoever you're reporting to? You need paperwork, or you could get called in front of Congress if it's big enough. Now, I don't work on projects like that, but when what was the big Equifax got hacked, that was half the United States. They called that company in front of Congress, right? And they were grilling him. And one of the guys next to him that worked for one of the big consulting firms told him he was negligent. He should have encrypted something at a certain level. He did it. So the dude threw him underneath the bus. So you got these old guys that know nothing about cybersecurity trying to beat you up, right? So that's what we're going to go through. That's kind of my lane, what I'm bringing to YouTube, and make sure everybody's up to it, right? Tiffany Bass just got a full-time job. Shoutout, PwC going in the government, though. Would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'm going to give my government name. Let me put my LinkedIn on there. KevTech got me low. I was super secretive, but I don't know. KevTech kind of changed my perspective. So give me a minute. I'm looking it up. I'm going to drop my official LinkedIn in there. I'm pretty vanilla, right? So I'm not out here like my man Tech G riling the crowd up. So I'm pretty vanilla. So I'm great. Drop my LinkedIn in there. So reach out. Black Heights actually got me thinking about it. And my man Maddox guy, I might do a little cheap Patreon and just kind of set that up and see if we want to do some GRC for a super cheap price. But like I said, I'm building it up. I'm getting it together. So that's my official LinkedIn with my government name. I'm fat now. That's that picture of me in a suit with a flip phone is probably from 2005. I got to get out here and work out. So that's my official LinkedIn. Reach out to me. like I said, my goal is to give game, kind of get everybody in the game. Like I said, shout out to my man MTR. I know he's gonna win, so that kind of got me thinking a little differently because I'm 53 and fat and out of shape, so I got to get it together. So, like I said, I ain't got much longer on this earth, so I'm trying to give out a little game while I got it. Once again, I'm wrapping it up. I do an online class, cybersecurity introduction to class on Sunday at 3. Come out and join me. The chat was kind of popping. I think I had 20 people that came and kind of went, so I was pleasantly surprised that many people forego football. So I was pleasantly surprised. So that's my official LinkedIn. Reach out to me. Um, Thanks, Tobias. Sad thing is, I used to run college track, man. Now I'm running to the refrigerator, man. The pandemic got me eating steak all the time. I got to get it together, man. I got to get it together. Yes, Tiffany. It's a weekly broadcast. I'm actually a professor in real life. I teach at a local university, so I took their slides and kind of melded to what I think work for the community. And basically, it's an introduction to cybersecurity. So we touch on. We did wireless last week, VM. So it touches on a piece. Each week it's a 16-week course of different things because each domain has a different level of security. Right. So you talking about, so what's your specialty, Tiffany? Are you GRC, VM, Cisco, Windows? I've been a DBA. I've done Tomcat and Apache. So what's your specialty, Tiffany? I'm with that Netropolis. I got the apple cider vinegar, so I need to get back on it though. I don't take it as often as I need it. So Tiffany, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna touch each one of those things live. And and each one of those has a security component on top of it. Right. Then get to my man Black Heights up there. He's gonna help you get the job and get the bag. We could talk about the government once again. I worked at DOD. I work at a big state government. I'm actually thinking about, like you said, I'm thinking about maybe going to PwC or Accenture because I worked with the IRS for 5 years. Once again, I did DOD security, so I'm familiar with all that. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up. Hit me up on LinkedIn. That's me. You see me out there. Once again, I need to put a new picture out there. I gotta go do some real work so I can eat. Hit me up. Like I said, I'll come check it out. Check my man Jabron out. Black Heights. Shout out to the bias. Gray Fox is always in the house. Boyles, I see you. You can always plug on my channel, man. If I don't like it, I'll let you know I'm grown, man. Maddox, he got me thinking about the Patreon like my man Black Heights. So I got to build it up. So I'm out, everybody. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Let me go do a little work. Everybody have a good afternoon.